Turns out, things can get a lot worse on Hoxies. Not only has the Rockpox infection gone airborne, but it's also been able to move on its own. But it also seems that the glyphids have some new family members that appear to be joining them. My name is Blueghost, and I would like to welcome you to Season 4 of Deep Rock Galactic, Critical Coruption. Much like Season 2 has taken place in Deep Rock Galactic, Season 4 is a continuation onto Season 3 of Deep Rock Galactic. In this brand new season, we are introduced with a brand new seasonal event, brand new Rockpox infected vectors, brand new glyphid enemies, brand new equipment that you may come across in your missions known as jet boots, and of course, a new battle pass with 100 levels worth of cosmetics and a brand new cosmetic tree. And a brand new beer that will give your crew a new definition of fun. The space rig has unfortunately seen better days. The Lithophage outbreak has unfortunately gotten worse. You'll see rather large veins that are outside of the window area where you can normally see Hoxies. And yes, the refrigerator is still unfortunately out of commission. But however, there is a new little gadget that you'll be able to find by the Barrel Hoops game. Ooh, what's this? We have a brand new arcade game called Jetty Boots. Why couldn't they call this Flappy Boots or Birdie Jets?
Ah! I was so close!
Kindly get your heads out of that game and get back to work. I told them this box was a bad idea.
Sheesh. Okay then, let's just go ahead and get right into it. Sorry about that, boss. Is it just me, or does Mission Control seem a little grumpier than he usually... Oh my, what in the Carl is that? To kick off our Season 4 guide for today, let's introduce you first to the Lithophage Corruptor. The Lithophage Corruptor is the brand new seasonal event that is introduced into Season 4. And by the looks of it, it's a mutated Plagueheart that seems to have grown legs and is able to move around and spreading Rockpox everywhere it goes. The Corruptor is heavily armored, and unfortunately, we're not able to stop it by conventional means. In order to fight against the Corruptor, we're going to need to call in cleaning utensils, which is pretty much the same thing as how we fight against the Plaguehearts when it comes to the Lithophage outbreak modifier in missions. To start off, simply apply lithofoam to the outer shell of the Corruptor. Though do be aware, once you apply lithofoam onto the outer shell of the Corruptor, it will react, and you will start a boss fight encounter. The Corruptor is shielded by 2 layers of shielding, with the first health bars being tied to the outer shell, and the second health bars being tied to the inner shell. Once the armor has been completely removed, you can begin to damage the Corruptor at the source. But it is worth noting that removing the armor off the Corruptor is no big pushover, for the Corruptor will be able to run away and attack you to defend itself. The most effective way to remove the inner and outer shells of the Corruptor are to immediately target the boils with the Lithofoamer. With quick reaction timing, you can easily cover a whole entire panel of armor by using the Lithofoamer, and then immediately vacuuming it away to expose the inner shell. Once all of the outer shells have been removed, the Corruptor will then immediately start to attack you with different attack patterns. A known attack it's able to do when all of its outer shells have been exposed is that it will plant itself on the ground as it will send a pulsing wave towards you traveling through the ground with lithophage spikes. Continuing ahead as we continue to remove the inner shell, it will also have boils for you to target so that you can effectively remove the inner shielding plates. Once you remove one section of its inner shell, you can begin to immediately damage the Corruptor. The Corruptor's weak spots are identified easily by bright blue glowing veins. There will be 3 of these on each side that are protected by the outer shell and the inner shell, and they will all have their own separate health pools. Once all 3 of these weak spots have been destroyed, the Corruptor has been defeated, and you can turn in your Plaguehearts for a hefty bonus. Which is of course a bonus scripts that are going to be awarded throughout Season 4. If the Lithophage Corruptor wasn't bad enough, unfortunately it can only get worse from there when it comes to Rockpox. It has unfortunately gone airborne by infecting Nadocyte breeders and Bacteria goo bombers. Not only that, but unfortunately the Rockpox has also gotten to a couple more of our glyphid friends. Those would happen to be the Glyphid Acid Spitter and the Glyphid Exploder. The Rockpox Acid Spitter, for example, will behave normally just like a Glyphid Acid Spitter, except for the fact that its attacks are very different. Instead of the Acid Spit that it normally fires at you, it will fire Infectious Vomit. These will deal high amounts of damage and continuously build up Rockpox infection over time. Just taking 2 hits from the Rockpox Spitter alone is enough to get you infected and put you in a very bad spot. The Rockpox Exploder is definitely a beast all on its own. Normally when you shoot a Glyphid Exploder, it usually will self-combust after 1 or 2 hits. With the Rockpox exploders, you'll need to take a different approach to them. Even though their defense stat is not super high on the miner's manual, they will take way less damage if you're not targeting the boils on their body. It's also worth noting that if you let a Rockpox exploder get too close and explode on you, you will instantaneously become infected and put into a horrible situation. Moving on to the airborne Rockpox carriers, let's start off with the Goo Bomber. The Goo Bomber will have the same behavior just like a conventional Mactera Goo Bomber, except for the fact that the attacks are different. Instead of spitting giant goo balls at you normally, he now spits out infectious spit at you. And of course, unlike the regular goo barrage that they normally do, the Rockpox Goo Bomber will lay a barrage of infectious goop that will slow you and cause infection over time the longer you stand in it. For the Nadocyte Breeder, this one is quite a mouthful. Not only does the Rockpox Nadocyte Breeder act differently, but when it dies, I'm sure it'll give you Halo Flood Carrier type feelings. Instead of laying down the Nadocyte eggs, the Nadocyte Breeder will now instead spit out yellow pus with a couple of larvas with it. It can do this quite frequently, and the larvas can add up quite quickly if you are unable to deal with the Nadocyte Breeder immediately. When all the blisters on the body have been popped, it will immediately die, but instead of a normal death, it will then explode, releasing more larvates into the atmosphere. Hope you brought a driller with you. Now that we've gotten through all the newer Rockpox variants, how about we move on to our newer friends over in the glyphid family. There are two brand new type of breeds of glyphids, and those include the glyphid Stingtail and the glyphid Septic Spreader. Both these new breed of glyphids will keep you on your toes, as they will bring a lot more spice when it comes to a firefight. Let's first start off with the glyphid Stingtail. Its attacks will include Tusk Slam, which is a melee attack, and Sting Whip, which is a grab ranged ability. The glyphid Stingtail can also be easily identified by its unique roaring sound. It'll most commonly attack you with its Sting Whip attack, which is a grab, which will pull you towards the glyphid Stingtail and potentially into greater danger. Once close enough, the glyphid Stingtail will of course attack you with its very sharp tusks, which deal heavy amounts of damage if you're not careful. The Stingtail's weakness can be located on its skull after you expose the armor covering it. The glyphid Stingtail alone can make it very dangerous to ride on gunner zip lines, which is why caution and awareness is highly advised. Up next we have the glyphid Septic Spreader, a very interesting type of creature that is introduced into the glyphid family. It comes in a form of a green body with a very rotund looking butt. The Septic Spreader will attack you with a very long-range attack in a mortar type of fashion, which is known as Sepis Lob, which covers a moderate area which causes major damage over time if you do not get out of the area of effect immediately. The Septic Spreader's attacks are very identical to the Driller's Corrosive Sludge Pump, except this Corrosive Sludge means business. If not taken care of immediately, it will quickly spread poisonous puddles across the cave, leaving you in a very bad spot and having to avoid a lot of damage over time puddles. And like I've mentioned before, these puddles mean business. They will hit very, very hard if you're not careful. With newer enemies and Rockpox spreading onto other hosts, you may be able to find some very special crates that have been provided by our good friends over at R&D. This crate is secured by a lock, which you will need to unlock by playing one round of Jetty Boot, the Flappy Bird of Deep Rock Galactic. Clearing a single round of Jetty Boot will unlock the crate and you will have access to the Jet Boots. Now, if you're playing a scout, you may not really need these jet boots after all. But when it comes to a lower mobility class, like say Gunner for example, these jet boots can provide a very awesome advantage for you. You'll be able to soar high and soar into places that you never thought you'll be able to go with the jet boots. The jet boots do travel very fast and can be very useful for saving yourself from a bunch of fall damage. Though of course they do have a limited amount of time before the jet boots will eventually overheat and need to take time to cool down before you can use them again, which is indicated by the jet boots bar on the left side of your screen. Not only can the jet boots be used as a transversive tool, but they can also be used as an unconventional weapon. Within close proximity right below you, the jet boots will be able to stack up fire damage very quickly, setting enemies ablaze. As we get ready to conclude the guide for Season 4, how about we talk a little bit more about the Battle Pass for Critical Corruption. As always, 100 brand new levels have been introduced into the Battle Pass, with of course brand new opportunities to earn scripts from the Seasonal Event Bonus, the Battle Pass, and daily challenges. A helmet that immediately caught my attention is the Future Shock helmet, which I'm very excited to get when the season launches. There's also a chlorine weapon paint job that you can get along the Battle Pass, which I have very high hopes of it looking very good because blue is of course my favorite color. And coming into the cosmetic tree, we will be introduced to a brand new theme of armor paint jobs and weapon paint jobs, with of course featuring a brand new weapon framework for the season, which is Infected, and I honestly love this weapon framework a lot for this season. And of course, as I almost forgot to mention, we have a brand new beer, which is known as the Randowizer. This is a fun little drink that you can challenge yourself and your crew with, for whenever you drink it, it will randomize your loadout, which means it'll randomize your weapons, your weapon perks in general, armor perks, etc. for the whole entire remainder of the next mission that you're about to go into. And it will also randomize every slot that you have in your wardrobe, like in my instance of the game right now, where I look like a very awesome football player. I honestly love this beer a lot because it will add a lot more challenge elements into the game. It can even add a really big avenue when it comes to doing challenges with your crew, or even by yourself when it comes to soloing at Hazard 5 or even above without Bosco. And not to mention in the wardrobe, when you go to customize your armor, you can have sleeveless or, of course, with sleeves. And the ability to copy and paste selected loadouts. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for the guide video for Season 4. Good luck out there, and as always, rock and stone.
Wow.